This, the
Recording in
Office of
progress.
Professional Employees International Union Local 6. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, the chair so declares, we may go into executive session. I do so declare. And we will now roll call into executive session to discuss the department's food inspector position. Let's see, Zach Cataldo,
Aye.
Sue Hanley,
Aye.
Michelle Petoniak Crawford,
Aye.
and Stephanie Granger, aye. So we will end the meeting, go into our executive session, and then people can join back at 6:20 for the continuation of the board meeting.
Yes.
Recording in
Michelle
progress.
Petoniak Crawford,
Yes.
and Stephanie Granger, yes. So the meeting begins. And our next agenda item is open forum. I'll ask that all COVID and mask related comments and questions be held until we come to that agenda item. If there is anyone with a non-COVID related item, please feel free to raise your hand, and please remember to state your name and address for the record.
Okay, I don't see anyone at the Q&A.
Okay, then we can move forward with our next agenda item, which is the approval of the September 22nd, 2021 minutes. These minutes are late in being approved because they got lost when in a COVID illness. So we're getting back to make sure we actually went through them.
I had just one on page 3. I didn't really understand the right at the top of page 3. Let me see. That doesn't look like page 3. No, wait, keep go. Sorry, go back down. It was. Oh,
Are you on the September ones or are you on the?
I'm on
January?
September. Which
Okay.
one? Yeah. I was looking at a paragraph about Belanger stated would be reasonable for the board to discuss this possible specific date. And then she reminded everyone that it's the board's responsibility to look out for Westford residents, staff, and people who come to town to recreate here. It didn't make any sense. There, right there. What does that mean? Who come to town to recreate here?
Recreate, to have fun, to do other
Recreate, like recreation. They
Yeah.
come to play.
Okay, all right.
Recreate.
That seemed like a strange sentence, but anyway, okay.
Well, maybe we work the sentence.
I don't know.
things. I mean, if that's what you said, it's not incorrect. So
Okay,
I mean, to explain, it's basically people come to
okay,
town
enjoy
to
life.
walk
Okay.
the trails or,
okay,
do whatever.
all right.
That was all? Did anybody else
all.
have any corrections to these?
We need an English. We need
That's
Jill.
all
we
I
need,
found.
We need an English major. I could have misspoken, but that's what I meant.
Okay,
Okay, seeing no other, is there a motion to accept the minutes from September 22nd?
I'll make
I'll
the
make
motion.
that motion.
I saw Michelle makes the motion. Is there?
And I'll second.
In 2 seconds, thank you. All in favor, I need to have everybody speak. So Joanne Belanger,
Yes.
Zach Cataldo,
Yes.
Sue Hanley,
Yes,
Michelle Petoniak Crawford,
Yes.
and Stephanie Granger, yes. That motion passes unanimously. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes from January 10th. Did anyone have comments to those?
I just had one thing as well on page 3. The word actively is used twice in a row. It just, let's see. It's the top of page 3. Keep going.
Actively working, actively to acquire.
Yeah, that's where it was. Where is that? Yeah, it said, Dick stated the town of Westford has a high vaccination rate. And she explained the department has been actively working actively.
So strike the second actively.
Yeah, that's all. Actively, yeah, okay. That was the
We're
only thing.
really working hard.
That's all I found.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing no other comments. Is there a motion to accept the minutes with that change?
I'll make a motion.
Zach makes a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Joanne seconds. All in favor, Zach,
Aye.
Michelle, or Joanne,
Aye.
Sue Hanley,
Aye.
Michelle Petoniak Crawford,
Aye.
and Stephanie Granger, aye. So the motion to accept the minutes passes unanimously. Sorry, switching around on my computer to see what's next. Okay, our next agenda item, are we ahead? We are a little ahead. Are people here for the variance request, or do we need to take something out of order?
Let me just double check to see if he's here. I
think
know
he
he was
was.
just on.
It was earlier.
Evan, are you there?
I see Evan Carloni, is that the person?
Yep.
He's muted. Move, Abby.
He is able to talk. I don't know if he's there.
Okay. Do we want to take updates from old business or updates on the
Sure. Absolutely.
American Rescue Plan Act funding discussion out of order?
Sure. All right. Sure, absolutely. Evan is trying to get in again. Here we go.
Okay.
Evan, are you there? There he is. Are you there, Evan? He's unmuted. I don't know. He must be having difficulty.
Can you hear me?
Ah, there, we hear you. Okay, so now we can go back to our agenda item, which is the variance request for 12 Lower Road. We have Evan here with us. Evan, yes?
Yes, hi.
Okay, hi.
Hi, so I'm Evan with Innovative Septic Design. I'm here on behalf of the owners of 12 Lower Road. It is, if you're not familiar with the property, it is a, oh, sorry, can you still hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Kind of noise changed a little bit. It is a peninsula. It is on Nabnasset Pond, and it is a relatively tight lot. Although there is space where we were able to do soil testing. Currently, the existing system is right in the front of the house. The house it's a seasonal home. It's not insulated, and it is on sonotubes. There's no actual foundation. So the system's out front. It's very close to the water line, very close to the wetland. Although there's really no place on this site that isn't close to the wetland. It's just the nature of the site. So what we have here is a to basically get the effluent from the house out of just the groundwater. I mean, you've essentially got a system that's just sitting within the groundwater. What we have provided is it's a septic tank pump chamber combo, which is rerouted out of the back of the house. The reason to do the back of the house is to get away from that water line. There's nowhere else for the water line to come because it just comes down the driveway, which is the only access to the property. So by rerouting to the back of the house, we avoid any setback requirement or variance to the water line itself. We also no longer have to cross the water line with any sort of force main or anything like that. So we were able to avoid any issues there by going out the back. The leach field it's not a conventional leach field. So what that means is instead of it being a pipe and stone, where basically what happens is all of the effluent just goes out into a field, hits the receiving soil layer, and the receiving soil has to do all of the grunt work basically in treating that wastewater. This is a patented sand filter. It's called a geomat. And the concept behind it is it uses a special, well, a certain kind of sand that provides better treatment, and it provides better treatment for the wastewater. So what happens is these systems, they get reductions in sizing. They also, on a repair scenario, in most cases, they receive reductions to the groundwater table because they have basically proven through third-party testing to treat the wastewater up to tenfold better than a conventional system. So this geomat, basically what happens is instead of it just dosing to a pipe and stone, going to the receiving soil, it will fill up these mats. And these mats, they're kind of similar to sponges. And so what happens, it's a pressure distribution, meaning all of the wastewater is spread evenly over the geomat system. And the geomat will not actually release the wastewater until they are full. So why this matters? This matters because you're getting very even distribution over a surface for the leaching area, as opposed to in a conventional system, the water goes into the tube, goes out of the tube. You have a lot of point loading in one area on natural soil, which is what causes a lot of issues with nutrient loading. So this system will spread the wastewater out, and it will do a better job at treating the wastewater. So what is being requested today, there are three requests. Two are under local upgrade approval, and those are the setbacks to the flags, the wetland flags. So now that I do want to keep in mind too that the wetland flags on the, what part of the property is that? That is the north side of the property. So wetland flag 3, 4, 5, 6. Those aren't actually the edge of the pond. That's actually up on a banking. The edge of the pond is an additional about 6 to 8 feet off of that. So just something to keep in mind, but it is the edge of wetland, and that's based off of wetland species, plants and shrubs. So the request, there's two in regards to setback to the wetland. One is from the septic tank pump chamber combination tank, and that is a reduction from 25 feet down to 10 feet. And then there is a reduction for the setback from the leach field to the wetland flags, and that's from 50 feet down to just under 5.5 feet. I know it's close, but there's really, we played around with some other ideas, and it really, this spot over here on the side where we've got the 5-foot setback is really the only place it will fit. The last variance request, this isn't through AUA, this is through variance process, and I do have I did do the abutter notification at, I believe it was 14 Lower Road, and they did sign off on that card. So that request is a reduction from 5 feet down to 3 feet separation from the bottom of the soil absorption system to the estimated high groundwater. So to just add on that, why that is being requested through variance is typically it's allowed through the approval letter through the LUA process. But in this scenario, it's not, because if a local upgrade approval is requested or granted for a setback to a bordering vegetated wetland, then that reduction isn't allowed through the local upgrade approval process. But that's why it's being done through variance, because variance is you can request any variance other than a select few things that are labeled in Title V. So And again, the justification behind that reduction in separation is the fact that we are using an innovative alternative system that has proven results from a third party testing that shows it does provide much better treatment than a conventional system. And to me, a lot of these setbacks, I mean, certainly they carry to all septic systems, but more so to conventional because of the limited ability to treat wastewater in a conventional systems. These systems have come a long way. So those are the requests. We're basically, in a nutshell, we're looking to replace a system that's more or less directly discharging to the groundwater and replacing it with something that is an advanced system, a more cutting edge system that treats wastewater at a much better level than a pipe and stone, and definitely better than a cesspool that goes directly into the groundwater table. So I think that's about all I have. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know.
Thank you, Evan. Zach?
I'd love to get some feedback from Ray or Abby. I'm not sure who worked on this, but just their thoughts as they were looking at the plans.
Just for those who aren't familiar, Abby she's a health agent in the department, but currently the acting environmental health director.
And Abby, are you there? Did you want to speak to this? Oh, you're muted, Abby. Okay, I don't know. Abby might be having some difficulty. Are you there, Abby?
I'm not hearing you.
Yep, we can hear you.
Oh, you can? Oh, yeah. Okay, everyone can. Okay, sorry, I don't know what that was. Yep, so I think it kind of comes down to, in my mind, if the board is more comfortable with granting these variances, or the other alternative would be the tight tank in this situation. Obviously, I'm concerned of the setback to the wetland. It's 5.42 feet, I believe, for the flag. Title 5 does require 50 feet. He is using a system that I have seen quite a bit recently, the geomap, the treatment. It does, as Evan did a great job explaining, reduces the offset to groundwater with a 2-foot reduction. So I think the board has to kind of weigh, either a tight tank, or if they're willing to grant a variance so close to the wetland and then subsequently to the groundwater.
Abby, I'm sorry, with the sound's a little off. And you said the other option would be what?
A tight tank is pretty much the last resort.
Okay, the tight tank.
So I think weighing the two, between granting the variances, being so close to a wetland, limiting the disturbance. I did suggest to the applicant that they should have a preliminary meeting with conservation just to see where they stand. Unfortunately, I don't think that's taken place yet. It is, another department, but it is still obviously a large factor, I feel, in this approval.
So typically in a case, thank you, Abby, typically in a situation such as this, the option is a tight tank, but they certainly try to get apply for a full functioning system and do the best they can to get them. And we, as you know, we issue variances all the time. Our concern with this project is it is significant, even though they are using a new technology, the geomat system, which we have quite a few here in the community. We are concerned that they're so close to the wetland. We did reiterate that to the engineer. And we did request that they have a preliminary meeting with conservation just because they're so close to the Namnasset Pond. So that is definitely our concern. if they do apply for the tight tank, they would need to come in front of the board and they would need to come in front of the DEP per Title V regulations.
Can I just ask another quick question? I know that, obviously the water line is an issue, but it does seem like that would have been the better side of the house to try and put the system into. Obviously, there'd either have to be moving of the water line or sleeving of it or something, but how much thought was put into putting it on that side of the house? And I guess that's a question for the engineer.
Yeah, honestly, none. That water line is, it's the only way in. And we wouldn't be really gaining any sort of distance to the wetland flags. And also based off of the water table and what we found in the front yard in the backyard and the side, that's their parking area. And what would happen is it would elevate the parking area to a point where they wouldn't have a parking area. They wouldn't be able to park there. So it would severely diminish the functionability of the lot.
Are there other, Joanne had her hand up. Joanne?
So a couple things. One is, what is the status of conservation? Are they, so this is for the engineer, have you gone before conservation, or are you on the agenda to go to conservation? So that's one question. The other one is this what I'm seeing here, the whole extent of the property? Because we're just seeing the tip of the peninsula here. Does their property line go back any further? Or is that it? Because I don't really see the property line, but I am, very concerned about the lack of space, if you will, and being seasonal. So I appreciate the innovative technology, but if we're talking about a seasonal home, I guess I'd like to hear the reasonings why you wouldn't do a tight tank if it's only a few months out of the year, as opposed to going through this, digging all this up, putting this technology down, and all of that. Simple pumping.
Sure. So in regards to the property line, it is based off of basically the landform. So what you see, there is a line on the outside of the property. There's really not much available for survey records on this property, but the extent of the land is more or less what's being called the property line. It's mostly surrounded by water, other than the driveway in, and a bit of land on the edges of the driveway. In regards to the basically the thought between tight tank and septic system, Abby and I had a conversation early on about whether we should just go for a tight tank, and we kind of went back and forth about feasibility of a system. And we basically, the conversation had to do with what Title V says about tight tanks, and it says approval of a tight tank may be granted only to eliminate a failed on-site system when no other alternative to upgrade the system in accordance with 310 CMR 201 blah, 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 exists. It does go on to speak about seasonal systems and how it basically does make it easier for the Board of Health to approve a seasonal tight tank. But basically emphasizing the first part of that section, that's always, tight tanks to me have always been a last case resort. Now, I do understand it's a very environmentally sensitive site. And we are, this system with a septic system certainly would be a huge upgrade over the existing conditions. Now, the tight tank, so there is the piece about the regulation, how the regulation states. So that's one part that made me kind of have that mentality of, well, let's try to fit it. So that's the first part. The second part, is probably the most obvious, and that's the pumping requirements. Not only can it be costly, but you are in a very environmentally sensitive site, as you know, and as we've mentioned. How many times per year do you want a big septic truck backing their way up and pumping this thing? With a septic system, it's once every few years. With a tight tank, they could be there often. So I mean, that's the other side of it. The cost, how often this septic tank, septic truck is going to be backing their way up into this little driveway, and the fact that Title V does say it may only be granted if there's no other alternative. Again, I know they do speak to the seasonal side of things and making it a bit easier to get a tight tank, but if there is space, that was basically my role, to see if it is possible to fit one.
No, oh, totally understand. You're doing your job. But again, with it being a seasonal dwelling, then you're not backing a big pumping truck all year long. How many in this? There's only 2 bedrooms, so again, we're not talking about a 6-bedroom home and lots and lots of people. But my other thing is the environmental destruction. So I know it's gonna, even if you're putting in a tight tank, you're going to have backhoes and things. It's going to be that much more disturbance, if you will, close to the pond and the wetlands by building, a big system. So I'm really interested in conservation's take on this.
Right. So that's another thing I forgot. So the conservation side of things, I sent them the plan this week. I sent it over to my environmental consultant about a month ago, but he didn't send anything or start the process. He said that, so in the wetlands, the wetland protection bylaw, basically for conservation to be able to make any sort of judgment, the Board of Health, if there's any variances involved, the Board of Health has to basically approve it first. But certainly if conservation, even if you were to approve it, conservation, for this to go through, conservation would still have to approve it. So they could still say, nope, too close, that kind of thing. But basically I sent it over to, it was a Sierra and Conservation, and the director over there, he's back next week. So he was going to take a look and give me a call. The conservation side of things, it should have been sent to them sooner. It was really brought to my attention just yesterday morning that we should have had a sit down with them. I didn't really think that that would be required until yesterday morning, and by that point it was just too late. But so we do need input from them, and it has not gone before conservation, but the plan is to go before conservation, of course, but we need pending approval from the Board of Health one way or the other, because there's no sense in bringing this before conservation if it's just a no in the eyes of the Board of Health, and it'd be good to know one way or another, so we're not doing a ton of meetings.
So I guess I'm seeking input from the board members and Abby and Ray, who are more experienced in this.
I'll just say, I mean, I've been on the board for 20 years. I've never seen a case more calling for a tight tank than this. It just doesn't. I think I appreciate the work you did, Evan. I think it was great that you and Abby were able to figure out a possible scenario, but there's too many variances in my mind, and the location being a peninsula on the lake just doesn't work for me, especially because it's seasonal. So I mean, I'm not going to be voting to approve any of the variances.
I agree with Zach. I really think we need to hear from conservation before we make any kind of recommendation.
So by hearing from conservation, does that mean the input from the staff in town hall, or does that mean input from the Conservation Commission themselves?
So on our end, we would not be able to approve the plan. as it is now, 5 feet from the wetland.
We need Conservation Commission to sign off on that.
Yeah, we would like to see that the Conservation Commission, they have a preliminary meeting with them to see if they're going to be comfortable with the setback with this technology so close to Namnasset Pond.
So my question then becomes, if we don't really, I mean,
At
Are
this
we-
time, we wouldn't be able to approve it.
right, do we just say that, or do we need to take a vote that we don't approve it until?
So he is asking for a variance to a couple of variances to be approved tonight at the Board of Health meeting. So we would need to take a vote whether
the
you would
variances
approve or
and
not
then
approve the
they
variances.
Would like,
Mhm.
okay, if they don't pass, all right.
Can I ask
May
a
I
question?
ask, so may I just ask one quick question about this? So a meeting with conservation staff. So if I were to meet with them next week and they were to basically be okay with this plan or some sort of iteration of this plan, meaning treatment is provided one way or the other, whether it be a direct injection of air into the leach field or replacing the tank with a some sort of nitrogen reducing technology. If they gave their blessing, right, and we came back, are we still in a point where you say, okay, that's great that they said that, but no, we say tight tank? Because, I just want to make sure that, the trajectory of where we're going could be on a decent trajectory if their feedback is positive. Because if it's positive and we're just going to say no tight tank, no, go to tight tank anyway, then I would have rather have done that months ago, obviously, but we're here now. You see, I don't want to drag it out longer.
Yeah, thanks, Evan, I appreciate that
Yeah.
difference there. Joanne, you had your hand up?
Sorry, I'm pushing buttons. So a couple things. I agree with Zach. 5 feet from the lake is just a little too close for comfort for me, and I don't think that the conservation staff can give us the answers any more than, our staff could do that in the reverse to someone on the conservation side saying, are you okay with this? Because it still has to go before the board. You can get their input and kind of, what do they think they're going to do? But, I'm going back to the seasonal, situation that's there, and 5 feet. I just am not comfortable with that at all.
Okay.
So I would be inclined to. So I'm wondering, I mean, I don't know that you did this or not, but in terms of the tight tank, did you do any kind of analysis as to where it would go? Or did you not do that because you were hoping you didn't have to?
Well, no, I mean, it would likely try to get it away from that water line. Kind of the same philosophy as this system. It would,
Yeah.
I don't think it would adequately fit up where that existing cesspool is, because that existing cesspool, that existing cesspool is closer to the water than the proposed system, and it's right hugged up against that water line. So I would say it would have to, since the system wouldn't be on the side of the house, I would say the tight tank location would be better. If there was no field, the tight tank location would be better on the side of the
With the
house
field.
than it would in the back.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, that's where I am. It's still a system, and that still can be subject to failure, and it's 5 feet from the water. So I'm just not comfortable with that.
Thanks, Joanne. Are there any other comments from the board?
Yeah, just
Sue.
real quick, and I also respect the work that Abby and Ray have been doing, and I am not comfortable going against what, they've done all the work with you, Evan, and they are uncomfortable with this. And I honestly can't believe that the the, commission is going to say yes to it. I really don't. So I don't think we should be basing anything based on another committee or board. We should be making a decision on our own.
Thanks, Sue. All right. So is there anybody who'd like to make a motion about these variance requests, about the first one?
Do we take these separately or are we doing this in total?
I think we probably have to take them separately since they're 3 separate requests.
Correct.
So,
Well, I can move this along. Just so that they know what they're doing. Like Evan said, let's just go to the next phase. So I'm going to make a motion to not, what's the word? I'm looking for the
Deny.
word, not accept, to deny the variance request 1 for 12 Lower Road for the 10-foot separation between the septic tank and pump chamber to the wetland.
okay, thank you. Is there a second?
A second.
Zach seconds. All right, we'll take a vote. Joanne Belanger?
Am I voting yes to deny? Right?
Voting yes to deny.
Yes to deny.
Okay, Joanne, Zach?
Yes to deny.
Okay, yes. All in favor of supporting the motion to deny the variance request. Sue Hanley. Sorry, we couldn't hear you. Can you?
Yes.
Thank you. And Michelle Petoniak Crawford.
Yes.
And Stephanie Granger, yes, as well. So that first request is denied. Is there a motion for the second?
I'll make a motion to deny the second request for 12 Lower Road, which is the 5-foot setback from the soil absorption system to the wetlands.
Thank you, Zach. Is there a second?
I'll second that one.
Sue Hanley seconds that. We will take a vote. Joanne Belanger voting
Yes to deny.
to deny. Zach Cataldo,
Yes to deny.
Sue Hanley,
Yes to deny.
Michelle Petoniak Crawford,
Yes to deny.
and Stephanie Granger, yes to deny. And is there a motion? I'll make a motion to deny the request for the variance for the reduction of 5 feet to 3 feet for the estimated high groundwater table.
I'll second.
Zach seconds. Joanne Belanger, do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. Zach Cataldo,
Yes.
Sue Hanley,
Yes.
Michelle Petoniak Crawford,
Yes.
and Stephanie Granger, yes. So I guess, Evan, we're leaving you with the effort of finding a different proposal and working with Ray and Abby to do that.
Sure. Is this something where, since the tight tank was discussed, that the tight tank can be approved at this point, or do we have to come back with a tight tank plan showing location and whatnot?
Yeah, we would need that
Okay.
plan. then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan.
Okay. Our next agenda item is the aggregate nitrogen loading application for 0 Lawson Road. Does Abby or Ray have something to say on that?
Let me promote Matt Waterman from Land Tech. He's going to be speaking to the aggregation loading plan.
Apparently I was biting my lip.
Hi, Matt. Are you there?
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Matt Waterman, for the record, with Land Tech Consultants, representing Jim Sullivan, who's the applicant and has an agreement to purchase this land. We're here tonight for an aggregate nitrogen loading permit. It's not a variance. It's more of an approval. Aggregate nitrogen loading permits used to be, before the code changed in 2014, they were required to go to the state for approval. And with that code change in 14, they pushed that onto the local board of health. And it's more of it's an approval in the sense that you're documenting everything, you're doing all the measures that are required, and then you're kind of registering this land as an aggregate nitrogen loading permit, where it's different than a variance. But the property is 0 Lawson Road. Our last time we met with the board, it was back in September. We were in front of the board for the same property and got approval for variances for a shared well and a retaining wall. I think everyone here tonight was at that meeting. The approvals included detailed easements for the well, escrow account for maintenance and future maintenance of the well, as well as an O&M manual for ongoing maintenance. This lot is a smaller lot. It's a pre-existing non-conforming lot. It's on the north side of the Nab Lake, on the westerly end of Lawson Road. It's by closer to the Lakeshore Drive community, or where Muriel Drive kind of cuts out towards Route 40. It's a 6,593 square foot lot. It's relatively small, has sandy soils. It's on the north side of Lawson Road. So in this plan view, Nab Lake would be off to your right, or plan right. There's a row of houses that sit on the lake. And then there's Lawson Road, and then there's our lot. It's map 73, parcel 148. It's nitrogen sensitive in that it relies on on-site wells, and all the properties do along this area of Lawson Road. It's actually not in a zone 2. Most of Nabnasset is in a zone 2, but this is in an area where the zone 2 for the Chelmsford wellhead field in North Chelmsford is to the south and east. And then the wellhead down by East Boston Camps is to the south and west of Nab Lake. We've submitted septic designs. We've been working with Abby and Ray. I got them a plan last week, which addressed some last minute comments. I think we've addressed all those comments. They were more final approval type things and making sure everything was correct on the plan. It's a conventional leach field. It does include secondary treatment, a nitrofast or a microfast system to help reduce the nitrogen that's on this lot. Expectations that it'd be 19 milligrams per liter. I believe it reduces it down to. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the nitrogen system. I don't know if we went through it last time. I know Joanne certainly is, but the system, it's a septic tank with a blower, and it stirs and activates the biomass before it discharges to the leach field. But then with the nitrogen system, it has a recirculating pump, which brings it back to the beginning, to the front of the system. So you've got the effluent goes from what is it? It goes from being I just lost my train of thought, but it goes from oxidation. What is that? When the bugs are alive, and then they go back to dormant, and then they kick it back, and then they're brought back to life. And with that process, the nitrogen gets severely reduced before it gets discharged. So it recirculates 50% of the effluent back to the beginning of the system, and that process reduces the nitrogen. Sorry, I forgot my key word in that sentence. This treatment does have general use approval at DEP. It's approved. There's no following or monitoring as far as the approval system. There is approval and monitoring that's required for all these systems, but it's not to ensure that this system functions the way it is from a DEP level. It's more just maintenance and ongoing maintenance issues. The general use approval, there's only a couple technologies that have the nitrogen reducing. FAST was the first one. There was a sand filter system ahead of this, the RUC system, but that's a much more complicated system, and this is a secondary treatment that's more conventional in the sense that it's in a septic tank. The facility aggregation plan, it's a mechanism that allows to meet the loading requirements for this area. It includes the facility land, which is the lot that we're looking at. And then if you look in the southwest corner of the lot, or southwest plan view, there's a little strip, an easement, which is adjacent to the property. And that's the credit land, and where we'll be putting a permanent easement to get the required area so that we're meeting the discharge requirements in a nitrogen sensitive area. And so the 250-foot easement will be put as a permanent easement. The neighbors at 55 Lawson Road didn't have any issues. We made sure that we didn't compromise their lot or reduce their lot. They have a 3-bedroom system, and reducing the 250 square feet, they still have over 30,000 square feet, or 32,000, I believe it is. So we don't take them out of compliance or any detriment to their lot. They own 3 lots, and the 30,000 square feet is the lot that you see directly south with the house on it. And then they own the house. It's actually a lot that comes off of Muriel Drive, where you can see that little Z on the property line. That's their common ownership property line. And so they own those 2 lots in common ownership. And then they have a lake lot that has access down to the lake. That was not included with the 32,000 square feet. That's just a strip of land for access. The aggregate nitrogen loading, the requirements, it's just more meeting the requirements in that you don't have areas that are subject to floodplain, that have impervious surfaces, that you still have your required area with the impervious surfaces. Obviously, you're going to restrict the use on that little strip of land. They wouldn't be able to put a septic system there. It would be preserved kind of a natural state. They could put lawn there, but they couldn't pave it or put a septic system there. And the easements spell all of that out and restrict that little strip. The aggregate nitrogen plan, I know hopefully you got the PDF copies, but it included locust map, FEMA maps, the deeds for the land documenting that we have ownership of this property and that the credit land has ownership, with their reference plans. We are going to be doing an updated plan of land that gets recorded at the registry. The plans in this area are literally from like the 1930s, at least the plan for this lot. So we are going to be recording a plan at the registry that is just an updated plan. It's called an 81X plan. It doesn't subdivide the lot or create any new lots. It's just documenting the lot kind of to today's just standards. Happy to answer any questions. I went through a lot. I know that everyone's kind of familiar with this lot, so I moved quickly.
Thank you. Abby or Ray, did you have any comments about this?
I think it was pretty comprehensive. I looked through his application. Everyone can hear me, right, before I continue?
Yes.
It was comprehensive. He included, the documentation that will have to be filed for the credit land and land, both of the credit lands. So the only thing that I think, Matt, that you were going to touch on was the only differing issue that I saw, and I know we're going to have a land surveyor stamp your plan. I think you said it's your plan of land, but the Westford GIS just has a little differing land area than what you have proposed here. But as you said, I believe it's going to be updated and you'll have all that submitted with a stamped land surveyor plan, correct?
Correct. And the plan is done and it's ready to go. It was just, we were going to do it at the closing. So we would incorporate that at the closing, and then we could certainly update and supply the plan. And we submitted a draft plan and it was in the package. It was in the application. It was the plan that is going to record. It's been distributed to both the closing attorney and the buyer's attorney. And I haven't heard any issues or comments back from either attorney. So we were just, I believe, and they were holding on to it just for the final closing docs, and it would be recorded at the time of closing. And we could certainly, and the easements will get updated with the specific information and plan references. They're kind of plug and play easements out of Title V. Title V provides draft easements at the back of Title V. And so we're working with Attorney Doug Deshane and his law firm to make sure those documents will all be recorded, and will provide proof of recording on all the documents prior to construction. I guess I would kind of recommend the board could condition that as a condition of approval, that we provide all the recorded documents, just as a mechanism to make sure that we provide all those documents before we're able to put a shovel in the ground.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments by board members? Joanne?
Just a quick question on the credit land. Since it's really small, is there any thought to how, besides in it, putting it in the, the documents that nobody ever really reads, is there any way that you can protect that 5 feet, or was there any thought to actually purchasing that, that that 5 feet so that it's part of the property, or extending it down to, the whole length of the property?
I wasn't negotiating with the owners of the credit land, but I know that, and Jim was working with the gentleman, and I'm sure you remember Mike, who lives across the street, who's familiar and was talking to all the neighbors. And I think the preference was to secure the easement. We could certainly, and like I said, the easement comes with the restrictions that you can't pave on it or put your septic on it. So it does restrict in perpetuity the use of the easement. That doesn't mean you can't walk on it and do the things that you would normally do on your land, but you wouldn't be able to render it impervious or put a septic system in that area.
Okay. I guess it's kind of it's in the back there, so maybe it wouldn't be touched. I was just curious because it's pretty small, just to make sure that everybody realizes it's there in perpetuity. It won't matter, in 10 or 20 years when it's sold. But I get it. I was just curious.
Yeah, no, and the plan of land has the easement on it too, and it has that well easement that we kind of show graphically on the septic plan. The plan of land that will include both of those easements. So that's the recorded plan that is at the registry, and the deed will reference that plan, and it'll be part of the record.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions?
I just wanted to add a comment that, Abby and I have reviewed the nitrogen loading plan that Land Tech has submitted, as well as plan review. We will make sure, as all the nitrogen plans that have come before, that all the paperwork is secured and certainly filed with the Registry of Deeds. And we do also keep track of all of the properties that have nitrogen loading agreements in the community. So just want to share that. I know that's usually a question. Sure.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you, Ray, for doing that, because I know it came up a couple of years ago, because it, the credit, as you know, the credit land isn't always adjacent to the land itself. Sometimes it's in another part of the area. So keeping track of that is really important.
Thank you. All right, then is there anyone who'd like to make a motion? Do we need to approve this through a motion?
I don't think we have to.
Since it just needs an approval?
So we would want to just take a vote for approval.
Okay. So
Subject to all the final documents being provided at the end. I would just include that.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
That we do include, because we will, and we'll be putting those together with this approval tonight. If we are to get the approval, once they are all recorded, we can certainly provide all of that information kind of back to Abby and Ray.
Thank you. Yeah, is there anyone then who would like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the aggregate nitrogen loading application for 0 Lawson Road, map 73, lot 148, along with providing all the recorded documents.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I got Michelle seconding. So all in favor of accepting this, starting with Joanne Boulanger?
Yes.
Zach Cataldo?
Yes.
Drew Hanley?
Yes.
Jill Petoniak Crawford?
Yes.
And Stephanie Granger, yes. So that passes unanimously. Thank you for your work on this, everyone.
Thank you for your time tonight, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks. Okay. Our next agenda item is COVID updates. Ray, did you have something that you would like to update us on? I'm not hearing you. You're muted.
Okay. Yes, so COVID updates, a couple things. As you're aware, the Department of Public Health is rolling back on contact tracing across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We have been on several calls just this week with both our state epidemiologists from Maven, as well as a Department of Public Health call that takes place every Tuesday. Here in Westford, the cases, we are so excited to announce that the cases are declining. As of February, we had 63 cases since the beginning of February, 4 since Saturday, which we're very excited about. You'll see in the data in your packet, both for the region as well as statewide, all of the cases are declining. Vaccination rates here in Westford are up, so we're excited to see that. As I mentioned too in your packet, the school committee did meet Monday night to discuss the mask mandate for here in Westford schools, and that was extended to March 4th. DESE, which is the Department of Early and Secondary Education, has recently announced that come February 28th, masks will be lifted in the schools. Federal mask mandates are still in effect till the middle of March, and that would be when a child goes into a school nurse's office, they would need to wear a mask, as well as when they need to quarantine day 6 when they go back to school after testing positive for COVID, and on the school bus. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. I also want to just remind the public that the EEC, the Early Education Committee, does oversee daycare facilities. So they too also have their guidance documents for children under 5. But we are really excited to see the numbers, the contact tracers that have been hired through grant funding for our department. We have just let go this week. We're grateful and thankful for them for all of their work here for our department. Certainly this was not the case in the beginning of January when we were in the surge, but I'm so glad to see we're on the other side of it. And we thank them for their service. So Gail is now answering any questions that come into the department for families and employees that have questions regarding COVID.
Thanks, Ray. I wanted to address a couple things. Some people have questioned how the board makes our decisions, and I just wanted to say that, you know, I think we are really lucky in the town of Westford. We've got a great health department and an outstanding board with really good background and information, and I am honored to serve with these board members. Not all towns have members with such great background in public health, and I know that as a board we have been doing our very best to stay abreast of the most up-to-date information on COVID-19 and to weigh that when in any decisions we have been making. I'd also like to acknowledge that we've received many letters and emails from members of the town expressing support for removing the mask mandate and others who are expressing support to maintain it. I thank everybody who's taken the time to share their opinions and concerns with the board. We received a couple of letters which were requested to be in our record. These came from a group including Ali Mahadi, Patrick Mahadi, Silver Gray, Kate Gerstenlauer, Greg Amis, and Kelly Ennis Babineau, expressing their concerns regarding masking policies for children and those working with children who are not able to vaccinate or are high risk. Additionally, there was a letter from Ali Mahadi and Patrick Mahadi, which explained that the particular challenges and risks their child faces with respect to COVID-19, and that if those working with their child are not masked. And we appreciate them sharing their positions and their concerns in this way. I think at this point, we're going to open for public comment on the issue of the mask mandate. Because we are not in public and can't set up 2 microphones, one for those who want to express support for the mandate and one for those who would like to express support for removing the mandate, what I would like to do is have 15 minutes with people who would like to express support to remove the mandate, Then we will give people who would like to express support for the mandate time. And if there is time remaining at the end, we can take any remaining comments. But we're going to limit public comment to 30 minutes and ask that each person take no longer than 2 minutes and that they are limited to one-time speaking. We ask that there be no foul language, negative comments, ask people to please stick to their point and make their request quickly to allow more people to speak. Please remember to state your name and address for the record. And I think that we will now open the time for those who would like to speak. Again, to begin, we're having those who would like to speak in favor of lifting the mandate.
Okay, first person is William.
Is that me?
William
You do.
Kalaki. I'm not
Hi,
sure if
how
I'm
are you?
saying that right. Go ahead.
It's actually Elizabeth Salaki. Can you hear me?
Yes, please state your address as well as your name.
4 Forest Road.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So first, I just want to thank all of you for all of the work that you do on behalf of the town. But I do want to express my interest in favor of removing these masks. My children have been wearing them long enough. The numbers back us removing them. The state has mandated that we remove them. And I don't see any town backing in favor of us continuing this mandate beyond what the state has recommended. So if there's something that we're all missing that's happening in the town of Westford that would actually continue this mandate, we'd like to hear that information. So the state has said the numbers have gone down. The town has shown the numbers have gone down, and our children have been doing this for 2 years. So I appreciate all the efforts that have been made to reduce the spread of this vaccine, the spread of this virus, but we've been doing this for long enough. My children need to be able to see their teachers' faces. I have a kindergartner who is learning letters and numbers and reading and writing, and her ability to learn is being squashed by her not being able to see her teacher's face, her teacher being able to see her face, her ability to interact with her classmates, her ability to make friends is being impacted. There's no justification in the town of Westford with our numbers, with the vaccine rate that we've shown in this town to justify why you would continue it beyond what the state is saying is safe for us to do so. So if there's some.
Go ahead.
Sorry,
Please
Stephanie.
wrap up. Sorry, please wrap up quickly.
Okay, so if there's something that the town can show that is in contradiction to what the state is saying is okay, then we would ask that you present that to us. But you're extending it for some unknown reason. So if you have something to present to the town that contradicts why the state would lift their mandate, you need to present it to us. Otherwise, you need to lift the mandate.
Thank you. We need to move on
Thank
to
you.
the next comment. Thanks. You're muted, Ray.
Justin?
Thank you. My name is Justin Loker of 103 Russell's Way. My last name might sound familiar. I just want to thank you all for the work that you've done over the past 2 years. So I came to my first ever Board of Health meeting tonight to urge the board to lift its mask mandate for indoor spaces, businesses, etc. We have tolerated mask wearing for the past few months and in the past 2 years, recognizing its benefit during the spike in cases due to the Omicron variant. Now, with cases dropping rapidly and sufficient time for children as young as 5 to be fully vaccinated, the risk of severe illness and death is greatly diminished. In fact, per the CDC, the risk of death from COVID in November and December for vaccinated and boosted individuals was 0.1 per 100,000 cases. With numerous surrounding towns, including Littleton and my college town of Medford at Tufts University lifting its mask mandate, added on to recent state guidance suggesting fully vaccinated individuals need not wear masks indoors, I urge the board to follow suit. There's a massive difference between recommending immunocompromised and high-risk individuals wear masks and mandating that healthy, low-risk, vaccinated individuals wear masks. In Westford, over 87% of residents are fully vaccinated. With vaccination rates higher than Massachusetts, as well as Middlesex County, we should feel comfortable heeding the state's guidance. We have done our part to keep people safe. We have tolerated masks when it was reasonable. Now I urge the board to do the reasonable thing and end the indoor mask mandate. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
Okay. Leanne?
Good evening. You say forced masking works, and here's just a few things they can do. Masking causes tremendous harm to children physically, emotionally, psychologically, and developmentally. They've increased referrals to speech and language therapists by 25 to 300%, depending on location. And they've caused younger children to suffer a 24% cognitive decline, along with a 22 IQ point loss among infants. But what they can't do is stop transmission. The truth is on our side, the science is on our side, the ethics are on our side, and the law is on our side. The futility of mask wearing becomes clearer the more they're used. A generation of children has been harmed more from COVID policies than from COVID itself. And here's yet another masking tragedy. A privately owned gym in Westford has just closed. For 2 years, they complied with every absurd mandate thrown at gym owners. The town-wide mandate was a big part of that absurdity. Mandates are illegal, crush businesses, and harm our children. They don't keep people healthy. And now this gym that literally did keep people healthy is closed. Saying you're sorry this happened is meaningless, so please don't bother. Your illegal mandate requires everyone to live in fear, forego their rights, and comply their way back to normal. No one in history has ever complied their way out of a medical mandate, but tragically, you can comply yourself right out of a business. And now our fear-driven school committee thinks they can will this virus away by extending forced masking until March 4th. Fear-driven decisions made by our public servants is extremely dangerous to every Westford resident. It's never too late, but it's well beyond time to replace fear addiction with freedom of choice.
Leanne, your time is coming to an end, and we need you to also state your name and address for the record.
Leanne Kalergis, 2 Lawson Road. Forced masking must end now before you destroy any more Westford businesses and the lives of any more of our children.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alex?
Please remember to state your name and address for the record.
Alex Gonzalez, 2 Elm Street. To Board of Health members and fellow townspeople listening in, many towns throughout Mass are recreating without masks. I think the time has come to lift the indoor mask mandate, and I know I speak for many who are too afraid to speak up publicly. Please note that the following towns or cities never had mask mandates: Chelmsford, Lowell, and Methuen. The following Massachusetts towns have lifted their town's indoor mask mandate for February 28th, and I'm sure many others will follow these 66 towns: Littleton, Concord, Tewksbury, Townsend, Tingsboro, Pepperell, Dracut, Billerica, Worcester, Medfield, Melrose, North Attleboro, Norwood, Peabody, Pembroke, Rockland, Saugus, Stoneham, Stoughton, Swansea, North Reading, Linfield, Ashburnham, Ashby, Avon, Barnstable, Bellingham, Beverly, Bourne, Braintree, Burlington, Canton, Charlton, Danvers, Dighton, Rehoboth, Dudley, Duxbury, East, Bridgewater, Hanover, Hanson, Haverhill, Wachusett, Walpole, Westfield, Westminster, Weymouth, Whitman, Taunton, Seekonk, Hull, Carver, Westwood, Westboro, West Boylston, Wachusett Regional, Bridgewater, Raynham, Auburn, Plymouth, Uxbridge, Cohasset, Middleton, Boxford, and Topsfield. And I know many others will follow suit in the next few days. In conclusion, again, I know I speak for many who are too afraid, sadly, to speak up publicly, that we look forward to the indoor mask mandate to be lifted here in Westford.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you. Olga?
Good evening. Olga Fratkin, 34 Caldwell Drive, and I'm in full support of removing the mask mandates. And I think it's about the time for Board of Health to remove the mask mandates, especially for our kids. After almost 2 years, we are now finally allowed to admit that cloths and surgical masks have zero efficacy of protecting us from catching COVID. But they definitely do a lot of harm. Annie seems to understand very little about how to wear a mask. Many people more than 2 hours. For example, our kids at school wear disposable masks more than once. Believe me, all the kids do the same. Fail to touch their mask while it's in a position. Little kids do it all the time. Put masks into their pockets or bags and then put them back on. Everybody does it. You walked into the supermarkets, and I think every kid does it at school during lunch. All those behaviors are dangerous and harmful and especially for kids. Breathing those bacteria and extra bugs, not good. In addition, wearing a mask for 8 hours a day causes emotional and mental harm to our children. It stunts their development. For example, the little kids are developing social and motor skills at lower rate compared to COVID years. Even my 15-year-old son said to me the other day, after 6 months at school, he doesn't even know what his teachers look like. He can't wait to finally meet them and see and have a normal conversation in class. It's hard for our children to recreate with mask on. And we saw the mask hypocrisy everywhere. Just by watching Super Bowl, nobody even pretend to wear one. DESE recommended removing mask mandates, and I believe Board of Health were following religiously recommendations. I'm wrapping up. A lot of towns removing mask mandates, and I think it's about time that Westford are going to be the next town to join this group of towns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marsha?
Yep. Yes, Marsha Young, 26 Acton Road in Westford. First of all, I want to say that I agree with all of the previous speakers.
Do we lose Marsha?
We lost Marsha.
Well, she agrees. We hear that.
Okay, Marsha. Next we have Rhonda.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rhonda Fitzgerald. I live at 107 Russell's Way. It's the first time I've ever called into the Board of Health or any meeting. I have sent some emails to you all, but I feel like now is the time to speak up since this is a really important decision. So I urge you to rescind the townwide mandate effective immediately. If you do choose to keep that mandate in place, which I don't think you should, you must exclude the schools from the mandate. The data over the past 2 years is crystal clear. COVID is not a serious threat to the vast majority of children. Many countries have never masked children in schools with no worse outcomes. Many states within the US are not masking children in schools. Vaccines are now available for anyone ages 5 and up for any family who chooses. And this is what we were waiting for, right? Before we unmask the kids. It is well past time to give families a choice based on their individual circumstances. Students or staff can wear a well-fitted mask to school if concerned. A well-fitted N95 or KN95 protects the wearer. The cloth and surgical masks that most are wearing aren't providing much protection anymore in light of the Omicron variant. So again, I urge you to rescind the mandate, but at a minimum, you must exclude the schools from any future mandate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. John?
And this will be our last speaker in favor of removing the mandate before we hear from some who would like to support the mandate continuing.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
My
Please
name
state
is
your
John.
name and address for the record.
My name is John Canestraro. I live at 11 Lakeshore Drive South. I'm the father of 3 elementary school children here in town, and I live with my loving wife. Thank you for allowing me the privilege of speaking tonight. Middlesex County has one of the highest vaccination rates in the world. Due to the effectiveness of vaccines and the current waning of the Omicron variant, many neighboring communities are lifting their mask mandates. Littleton lifted theirs February 12th. Groton lifted theirs February 11th. Tingsboro lifted theirs February 16th. I ask that you please lift the mask mandate immediately in Westford. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Ray said that there are only 2 other hands raised after John, so we will go ahead and hear from those 2 before we turn the time over to the other side.
Okay. And Megan?
Hi, my name is Megan O'Connell of 44 South Chelmsford Road. I assume you can all hear me. Okay. First of all, I want to thank the board for all the work you've done over the last few years. I can imagine it has been very difficult. But what I'd like to point out is that there was a time, in last year and earlier in the pandemic, when a mask mandate made sense based on a risk analysis of the dangers of COVID and the strategies to avoid it. However, we have long since passed the point where that calculus has changed. As other people have mentioned, our vaccination rate in town is very high. Many of the neighboring towns do not have mask mandates anymore. But more to the point is that now, which is different from earlier in the pandemic, N95 and K95 masks are readily available for those people that still need protection. And those were not available earlier in the pandemic. So I'm urging you to drop the mask mandate townwide. And I'm also going to urge you to tell the school committee to follow the DESE guidance. Based on my understanding of DESE having specific authority in the Mass General laws to issue health guidance, but the school committee under the law that authorizes what they can do does not include that. So I'd urge you to drop the mask mandate and also to tell the school committee that they should do the same. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And Masha. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think I was cut off before. As a scientist, I don't understand why the Board of Health has not had a criteria established ahead of time in order to figure out when you were going to remove this mandate. Do you have a criteria?
We're not going to generally make this iterative, but we did set some parameters initially, but given the nature of COVID, we also acknowledged that those might change.
I never saw those parameters. I don't quite understand. I mean, as I understand this, the data we have right now, if there were 63 cases in February so far, that means that there's 0.26% of our population in Westford was infected, meaning 99.997% of the population was not infected. So there is really no, I mean, there's absolutely no reason to maintain a mask mandate any longer than this. That's it.
Thank you, Marcia.
Yep.
We'll now ask that anyone who would like to speak in favor of maintaining the mask mandate raise their hands.
Sarah, go ahead.
Hi,
Sarah, please state your name and address for the record.
hi, my name is Sarah Chmielewski, and I live at 17 Shelley Lane. And I'm calling in tonight because I'm neither for or against the lifting of the mask mandate, but I am pro Board of Health and Health Department, and I think all of you are so great, and I am sure that you have all the data and information you need to make a great decision, whatever decision that should be made tonight. I have confidence that you're keeping Westford residents safe, and so also wanted to just comment that both my kids are in Westford Public Schools. One is in kindergarten as well. I heard someone else mention that, and he actually is in speech language pathology. He goes to a speech language pathologist, and he had to before the this pandemic even started, and he is progressing as normal. I think, I mean, I'm sure Sue Hanley, especially with her experience in the schools, knows well how some kids have been able to adapt, and I feel for all those kids that are having trouble, but I'm certain that that's part of the consideration that you guys are going to be thinking about tonight. So just wanted to say that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, thank you. Patrick?
Hello, my name is Patrick Mahady. I live at 18 Abbott Street in Westford. I'm more speaking upon the behalf of schools. We have a 3-year-old that is highly medically complex and is very high risk of being exposed to COVID. And I hope you guys consider what we have to go through as parents in terms of lifting the mask mandate, in terms of sending him to school. He loves school. He loves being there. He loves being around his friends. He loves the teachers there. He loves everything about it. And I hope that you guys really consider just what a difficult decision it would be for us if you lift the mask mandate in schools for kids under 5 years old who cannot get vaccinated. It's a very, very difficult decision for us. It's a very difficult decision for a majority of parents. And we understand where a lot of people are coming from. We really do. We just have our 3-year-old that loves going to school, and we would hate to take that away from him. He cannot mask. He's not cognitively able to mask. And he has so many services at school. He has OT, PT, speech, vision. He has so many things there at school that he benefits from every single day. And we would just hate to take that away from him because we were concerned that he would be exposed to COVID. Now, we're not saying forever, keep the mask on forever. Nope, absolutely not. But on behalf of my family and other kids that are high risk, that can't get vaccinated, we would really appreciate maybe just putting on hold just for a little bit longer until the cases come down a little bit lower. I thank you all very much. It's such a difficult decision that you all have to make, and we really appreciate all your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you. Jenny?
Hi, Jenny. Thank you. And please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Mark Chan, watching on my wife's computer. We're at 1 Tech Valley Drive, and I would like to say that I am in support of continuing indoor masking in Westford. Just looking at Westford's and Massachusetts' current declining COVID positivity rates, I think lulls people into a false sense of security regarding the risks involved in removing the mask mandate. Previously during the pandemic, we saw similar declines in positivity, and then the Delta and Omicron waves came and spiked those positivity rates back up. So I think that prematurely removing the mandate could only set up Westford for more trouble should another highly infectious variant arise. From what I did see from the Massachusetts government page regarding COVID positivity rates, they are still higher than they have been previously during the pandemic while we were doing full masking across the country. And I think that until we drop below these historical rates, I cannot in good faith support rescinding the mandate. Additionally, I think that for the people who recommend that the people who are immunocompromised take precautions on their own, I think that that's disingenuous for them to do because it puts the burden on these people who are otherwise already disadvantaged. Combating the COVID threat, it should really be a community effort. And so we should all be doing our parts, not just expecting them to take on the burden for themselves. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any hands raised or any questions at this time.
Okay, then at this time, I think we'll now go ahead and have discussion from board members. Sue Hanley.
I'd like to read a statement that I had prepared, actually. First of all, for Allie and Patrick, I know I've been in touch with Courtney Moran, who is the head of People Services, and she has told me that it is being handled by the school team, your son's case, and he's on an IEP, and I understand you are in support of staff who take care of him wearing masks, and please know that your voices have been heard, and that is being taken care of on the school side. We've received numerous emails from residents in town, both in favor and against the mask mandates. I am grateful for those individuals who reached out to us in a respectful manner. I would like to take this opportunity to share some emails we have gotten from residents who did not reach out in a respectful manner. We have been accused of being liars, case counting bureaucrats, tyrannical, dishonest, accused of withholding medical data, delivering untruths, not operating in good faith, harming our citizens, particularly the children of Westford, and acting foolishly and brazenly. We have also been accused of pushing an outdated and bullheaded agenda aimed at universal vaccinations. I know there were more adjectives that were used, but those are the ones that came to mind. Our phone numbers were published on Facebook, and there were Westford residents who said to call us and let us know about their anti-vaxxing and anti-masking stance. Residents were also encouraged to sign and share a petition calling for the overdue resignation of every board member. Through all of this, we have not ignored data. We have never spoken untruths and lies, and we have always operated in good faith. We have also stayed current with the latest guidance with regards to COVID. The sources that we have used are CDC, American Academy of Pediatrics, Mass Department of Public Health, and we've also attended countless webinars put on by the state epidemiologists as well as the MDPH. There is a link on the MDPH site that specifically shares information for local boards of health. There are a myriad of articles that can be found through Google that support one's beliefs against masking and getting vaccinated, including the dangers of both. We have been accused of not sharing this information. As Board of Health members, we are tasked with listening to the guidance from reputable institutions and making decisions that we believe are in the best interest of our residents. Whether you agree or disagree, this is what the board has always done. In terms of a few mask myths that need to be dispelled about masks. First of all, children are never wearing them 8 hours a day. The school day is only 6 hours. They have their masks off at lunch, and they also have them, frequent mask breaks. Masking has not resulted in the increase in mental health issues in children and adults. The pandemic has. A mask does not incubate germs. A mask does not cause immunity suppression or bacterial and fungal infections. Masking did not cause a 15-year-old to collapse on a basketball court recently. It was a cardiac event. This Brooks School athlete is currently at Tufts Medical Center being treated. Masks do not make it harder for a child to breathe. They do not result in low blood oxygen levels. Masks do not interfere with a child's lung development. Masks do not trap the carbon dioxide that we normally breathe out. And all of that information I got from the American Academy of Pediatrics. What masks do is to help prevent the spread of COVID-19 by creating a barrier that reduces the spray of a person's spit and respiratory droplets. Another benefit is that it may keep people from touching their mouths and their faces, which is another way that COVID can be spread. What is important to note with the mask mandate, that even if we do lift it today in town, that will not affect the mask mandate in our schools. If we extend it today, it would affect the mask mandate, but we cannot shorten the mask mandate set out by DESE and the vote taken by the school board. I am in favor of the mask mandate being lifted, but I do think extending the mandate for 1 week in schools following the February vacation makes sense. While there is a loud, vocal group completely against masking, there are many who are struggling, particularly with the mask mandate being lifted in schools. And that includes students, parents, and teachers. Yesterday, myself and the adjustment counselor met with a 7th grader who struggles with anxiety. He's incredibly anxious about the mask mandate being lifted. I validated his concerns, but I did tell him I was in favor of the mandates being lifted. I told him those who choose to do so can continue to mask, and myself as the nurse in the building will have to mask. I had another 8th grade girl who was unhappy that the mask mandate was being lifted because now her classmates will see her braces. We have parents of children who are immunocompromised, very concerned, as well as families with someone at home immunocompromised. We need to take everybody's concerns into play when we're making decisions. As a Board of Health member for many years, no decision has ever been made personally or collectively about me, ever. It has always been what I believe in my heart is in the best interest of our community. Mental health is something I am passionate about, and I've worked hard to bring services to our schools and our community. Those who really know me are aware of this. And so when I've been accused of not taking into account the mental health needs of our students, it is just not okay because you really don't know me. I've been very uncomfortable with the anger and lies told about me and my fellow board members, and have tried hard to live by the adage, treat others as you would want to be treated. Or as Martin Richard, the youngest victim of the Boston Marathon bombing, said, no more hurting people, peace.
Thank you, Sue. Does anybody else have anything they would like to say?
Well, thank you very much for that, Sue. That was an excellent summary of, I think, how we all are feeling. We all want to get rid of the masks. There's no question about that. But we had a spike at Thanksgiving, we had a spike at Christmas, and now we're going into February school vacation break. So I don't think waiting a little bit longer would be harmful.
Thank you, Michelle. Does anybody else have anything to say? Joanne, I'm sorry, I see your hand raised.
It's a tough act to follow, Sue. I am 100% behind everything you said. The only thing that I think I can add to that is, personally, I'd like to see us align even with the federal mandate. The kids, I will definitely support an extra week. I would be even an extra week after that to give us 2 weeks. Somebody coming back on Saturday or Sunday from vacation from wherever is not going to show signs or symptoms, is not going to be, is not going to show up until midweek possibly, and then they're 5 days, and then they're 10 days after. So I think I've expressed this before. It is very confusing to say we're going to take the masks off in schools, but we're going to have to ride the buses with masks. Then we're going to have to go to schools that do mask and wear masks if we don't wear masks. I personally would not mind extending it to the 18th to be at least consistent with the federal transportation guidelines. However, I am in full support with the school department. I applaud them for the foresight of also saying we are going to have a problem potentially after break. And to be prudent and to be careful and to take care of our residents, our large and small, young and old. We've had a lot of conversations about children. It's not just about children. It's also about staff. It's about Sue and the other nurses. It's about the administration and the people in the cafeteria. I think we need to continue this on, like Michelle said, for just a little bit longer and make sure that we are in a really good spot before we decide to rescind this. Thank you.
Thanks, Joanne.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you so much, Sue, really.
Zach?
I was in favor of resending it immediately. I do hear the argument. I think it does make a lot of sense, the school board's argument that February vacation could be a spike event. So I'd be open to the idea of the 7th, but to me, I think it's an important tool to have masking when we need it. And I think that a lot of the community is showing that they're tired of the mandate portion of it. I think a lot of people still are going to mask when they go to supermarkets and so forth, and I think that's important. But I think the mandate portion of it is making a lot of people uncomfortable. And so I think if we want to be able to ensure that we can use masking as a tool when we need to, we have to make sure that we're using it appropriately. And as the numbers are dropping, I feel comfortable lowering the mandate. I think it's still a very important tool to use.
Thanks, Zach. So a couple of things that I wanted to mention. First, I absolutely support the school committee and will state that they have the authority. DESE has said that schools are able to make their own, or school districts, the school committees can make their own decisions regarding masking, and I support them in their decision. I want to make sure to point out that in the state's recent advisory regarding face masks, they have relaxed the requirements, but there are still times when people are supposed to mask. That includes, when they've had COVID but are allowed to leave isolation. It includes on transportation and in healthcare facilities, and also strongly, if they are around people who are at risk or at high risk from COVID. So I would really hope that people will listen to that and heed that. I very much appreciate what Sue said. We know there's mask fatigue, that there are challenges, mental health challenges brought on by the pandemic, social and emotional challenges increased by masking, but also real health concerns for those who cannot vaccinate and who are at high risk of COVID-19. There's a desire to trust in the immunity conferred by the vaccine, so that we can move forward. And, all of these are valid and important. The pandemic is not over, but we are currently and hopefully entering a better phase with lower rates and higher conferred immunity, both through vaccination and the natural immunity that has been acquired, and that we're beginning to understand a little, have a little more longevity to understand that natural immunity impact. We've seen in our town, as Justin Loker pointed out, we have exceptionally high rates of vaccination within the town. 88% of the town, or 88% of the town's residents are vaccinated. And the state's 7-day average percent positivity is now below 3%, which puts us in the CDC's category of low transmission. The data that we're able to report for our town, we know that the trend is down on the cases, but we are no longer able to have really comprehensive picture of how many cases there are, because home tests are somewhat impacting that. But we are able to see from the state that there is a trend currently taking us lower in our COVID cases, both through the percent positivity rate as well as through the wastewater studies that they have done. And so I think given these things, personally, I think it is an appropriate time to list the mandate for the town. So that, as Zach said, if we need to pull it out again as a tool, we'll be able to. But I'm really hoping that if we do that, people will continue to mask when and where it is appropriate or when they are required to, and that we can exercise compassion towards each other as we move forward. Joanne, you looked like you had something to say in response to something I said.
No, I'm waiting patiently. Finish.
Okay, I'm done. I would be in favor of lifting the mandate.
Okay, so I think the one thing I do want to bring up is that we've always looked at this from a multi-layered approach, that no one thing is the thing that is going to make this end. So we know that before we had vaccines, all we had was masks and social distancing. We still have to talk about ventilation and the importance of that. But the one thing I did want to bring up about vaccines is that, and I haven't seen it, the booster rate. So what we're seeing is that people may have gotten their first or second doses because at the time things were not so good, and now are not getting boosted. And we do know that there is the booster availability for a reason, and it's because the vaccine efficacy does drop off, and we know that. And we also know that protection from having disease drops off. I've heard people say, but I have antibodies, and that in and of itself kind of means nothing, in that we don't know how much each individual body produces for antibodies. We do not know how much of an antibody protection there is based on what your viral load in terms of an exposure is. And they also too wane. So I think there's more to it than just saying we have a high vaccination rate. And let's also remember that there is a population, a vulnerable population that cannot be vaccinated, whether it's because of a medical situation or they're too young. And then there's the under 12s that can't be boosted. So there's more to it. There's a lot more to it than just whatever the base number is on the vaccination rate. We also know that we're not getting data out of Maven anymore like we used to because of the in-home test kits. That's the whole process of what's happening in the schools now. They're not doing test and stay, they're doing the test kits, and they're relying on, and it's not disparaging because they're confusing. We want to make sure that there's user error isn't involved, and that there's accurate reporting back to the schools, and that they do report back to the schools and not just say, I have a test and I'm going to school anyway, and I'm not going to wear a mask and I'm not going to tell anybody. We really don't know what the burden of disease is in the community like we used to when we could rely on the PCR testing because that's what we had. So I think in terms of layering, we have to make sure that we don't just extrapolate one data point and say, this is it. We've got a high vaccination rate. We've got a low case rate. It's about burden of disease. It's not about how many people died this week or how many people were in the ICU. It's what's the burden of disease in the community. And frankly, we don't know that as well as we used to. So we need to keep these protections up, all of the protections up for just a little bit longer.
Can I?
And that's how I feel about that.
You talked about the schools, so I can really speak that our numbers have dropped dramatically, and that's even with the at-home test. So we have a lot of people reporting to us, and now we don't have the test and stay program anymore, but we have kits are sent home for families that choose to do it, and they're supposed to test every week. And we've had a couple of positive cases from that. But like I think I've had 4 cases all week. I mean, this is, and so one thing we have to be careful of as a board, when we made the decision to put the mask mandate in place, we talked about when the positivity rate was coming down. We talked about that. And we really have to honor that right now. You know, I was frustrated with some of the emails that were coming out to us in January when the numbers were crazy. I mean, the amount of cases we had in December and January were through the roof. And keeping the mask mandate in place was absolutely the right thing to do. The numbers have come down, and we told people when we put the mandate in place in the first place, when our positivity rate was low, it wasn't about how many people were vaccinated, we were going to lift this mask mandate. In good faith, we are not being fair to the residents in town if we don't honor what we said in the first place. And you know, I have always been in favor. I was a squeaky wheel trying to get the kids back in school last year. I always knew school was a safe place to be, but I'm also, this will never be free of this virus. We just won't. But we've got to move out of this pandemic phase and into the endemic. We just have to. And we have to start treating it like the flu and things like that. I'm going to have to keep masking. There's other staff members that are going to probably have to keep masking, you know, in schools. And again, we're not talking about the schools right now. We're talking about in town. But in town, as Zach said, people will probably still mask. I mean, I've been in other towns that don't have a mask mandate, and I've still had my mask on. We still have a right to do that. But for us to continue to mandate it at this point in time, I am not in favor of. I am in favor of lifting the mandate immediately in town and maintaining the school's vote to have it go until March 7th. That would be my recommendation.
Thanks, Sue. I think, yeah, Joanne, I agree that it needs to be a multi-layered thing. I mean, originally we had some numbers that we were trying to track to, and we can't track to those anymore. And we also know that COVID is not going away in any foreseeable future, and that it is a disease that we are having to live with. And that's why I think I appreciate the state's emphasis in shifting to focusing on vaccination and that booster rate in town. Like, I would love us to start really pushing on that, because our booster rate is around between 58 and 80%, depending on the age group. That's how many people have their booster doses. So there's room for improvement there. I think that, you know, we don't have any way, like you mentioned, to really capture the number of cases in town. But we do know that the state, you know, in addition to the percent positivity, was saying that they're seeing that trend follow in wastewater. We can't measure Westford wastewater. We don't have a wastewater catchment system. But so we have to, you know, kind of go with the state's percent there, and being in that low transmission rate. I think it's time to let people follow the advisories and the guidance and remove the mandate.
I just want to make a point about the wastewater too. Just remember that it was even said on the state call that that's not to be used as a way to make a decision, because there's a lot of things that come into the wastewater numbers, including that it's always delayed. So,
right, but it's still it does show
it's coming down. Yeah, it's absolutely coming. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I'm in favor of wearing masks forever. Absolutely not. No, we're all. I get it. It has to stop, and it will stop. My concern is February vacation, and I would really just like to get through that and support the schools on that and see what happens, and then go from there, and then have it be done. So I'm just not in favor of lifting it immediately right now. I'm not.
I think we need to move to make a vote or something. I mean, we've been talking about this for an hour, so I would like to make a motion.
Okay, so
I would like to make a motion to lift the mask mandate in the town immediately. And I would like to, but keep the school mandate in place, that it's extended until March 7th. That is my motion.
Okay, so discussion, I don't know that, is it appropriate for us to say anything about the school mandate?
Well, in other words, I'm not including the school in lifting it
So
immediately.
just the
So
town.
I'm saying I'm in favor of lifting the town mandate, but excluding the schools and using the vote that was done by schools and DESE. So, well, actually by DESE, and then the school board voted to extend it beyond the February vacation. So I want to lift the mask mandate in Westford immediately, but I want to exclude the school from this vote of lifting it immediately.
I second that.
Okay. Does it? I'm trying to think through the wording on that, because our mask mandate, if we lift our mask mandate, that allows the other part to stay in play.
Right, we can't supersede and we've gotten this from legal. So if people are out there, we cannot supersede what DESE has said.
So what I'm saying is, I mean, I would like to support the motion, but I think that I would like it to read just simply that we will
Okay.
lift the townwide mask
The
mandate.
townwide man. Okay, I just don't want people to think that means school. That's
Right.
all.
So we can add a comment. No,
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable even voting that down. I don't know what you've just said. So
Okay,
do you
I'm in
want to
favor of
lift it?
lifting the mask mandate in the town itself. But we do not have jurisdiction for the schools.
Well, we do. We
No.
absolutely do.
No, we don't.
They're in the town.
No.
We
You
set
can
that.
go stricter, but you can't.
We can go stricter.
Right.
Right. So I think if we lift our mask mandate,
It doesn't force them to lift
it
theirs.
doesn't do anything to the school.
Well, they have to abide by DESE, but I want to, at a minimum, support the school committee.
So
so am I.
Okay. So
my
if
point is, my point. Just what Zach said, we cannot, if we extend the mask mandate in Westford to March 28th, for example, that could make the school mandate be till March 28th.
So
If we, yeah, go ahead.
So if the language would be that you're saying you propose, or
I am asking, I'm requesting that the mask mandate in Westford be lifted immediately. In the town of Westford be lifted immediately.
That would include the schools.
And you,
I'm telling you, it doesn't, Joanne.
it doesn't, because DESE has the authority.
DESE has the authority. Yeah.
No, all I'm saying is, yes, it would. They still have to follow DESE, and then, but
Joanne, if we lift the mask mandate in Westford today, I'm telling you right now, and Ray, we have been in touch with Greg Corbo. So he has let us know legally, if we lift the mask mandate in Westford.
Well, I haven't seen that. That's interesting.
It was an email today. Ray had just sent it because I asked the question.
No, I saw the email about the schools, but I didn't see any email about what the Board of Health would do.
Okay, so may I, well, let's see, we have a motion and I would like to make a amendment to the, or how do you?
You can do an amendment.
Amendment to it. So to read that we request the mask mandate be lifted immediately, but express support for the position of the school committee regarding the extent, express support for
the vote taken by the school committee.
Taken by the school committee
on February 14th.
Yeah. So now we have to vote on the amendment.
I second the amendment.
Okay, so Zach seconds the amendment. All in favor of accepting the amendment to the motion?
Wait a minute, we haven't even accepted.
You vote on the amendment first, like
amendment.
Stephanie's doing. You can vote it down if you don't like it, but you can,
Okay.
if you want the amendment, that's all we're voting on right now.
Got it. Okay.
And the amendment is just to support the
Request
school
to
committee.
lift the mask mandate immediately, but express support for the school committee's vote
on February 14th.
And just to be clear, if you approve the amendment, we still have to vote on the motion.
Correct.
All
So-
right, no, wait a minute.
So can we approve the amendment and
And then you
Yes.
could vote against the,
disagree the motion?
Right, because I want to make sure, I want to be very clear. I support the school committee. I don't support lifting the mandate right now. And I want to make sure that I vote
Then you
the
would
right,
vote
that
for the
way I
amendment.
feel.
Then you would vote
Yes.
for the amendment.
Okay.
Okay.
she
So-
might or she might not. Oh.
Voting for the amendment to accept the amendment, Joanne Belanger,
Yes, I hope I did that right.
I think so. Zach Cataldo,
Yes.
Sue Hanley,
Yes.
Michelle Petoniak Crawford,
Yes.
Stephanie Granger, yes. So the amendment to the motion passes. Now we can vote on the motion. And so the motion would be then that we request the mandate to be lifted immediately and that we express support for the school committee's vote of February 14th. Joanne Belanger,
No.
Zach Cataldo,
Yes.
Sue Hanley,
Yes.
Michelle Petoniak Crawford,
No.
Stephanie Granger, yes. Motion passes, but not unanimously. So again, I would like to reiterate that the pandemic is not over. There is still significant risk of catching COVID-19 that we beg and plead with to
Oh, she's, you know what, you can mute her. Ray, could you, there you go, okay.
Beg and plead with people to please follow the state guidelines to mask when they are required to mask and to mask as they choose in a, if they choose to mask. And we can.
And Stephanie, I would still ask people if they've had COVID, they're supposed to mask for an additional 5 days when they come out of isolation. So
right.
I hope people are still adhering to those regulations.
Absolutely, that's what I was referring to. So thank you for being very clear about that. That that is one of the circumstances under which people are required to continue masking. So turn on my other computer again so that we can move forward with our next agenda item. Okay, which is an update and discussion on the vacant environmental services manager director position. So we had this on the agenda because with the position vacant, there's been discussion about whether that environmental services director position should remain as the director of environmental services, or whether this is an appropriate time to consider switching it in line to the more typical health department structure these days, which would be perhaps to have that as an assistant health director, slightly broader position. So I guess I'm curious what other board members' thoughts are on this. The impacts, well, I guess first that, and then we can discuss the impact of it.
Does Ray want to talk about it first?
Joanne, I think.
Well, do we want to go to Ray first?
Yeah, Ray, do you have something you'd like to say about it?
Sure. So I just wanted to put it on the agenda. I know in the past this position has had a title as environmental services manager, and I would say that looking back to 1986, it has also been called the director of environmental services. Certainly, from a health department standpoint, we would like to fill the position, certainly, and do as you all would like with the title. Just tonight looking for direction of how I'd like me to proceed.
Yeah, and I think my understanding is that the town position is that while it was manager, it should not have been, because it never was approved, that it's been director. It just had one period of employment where it got hired as manager. So I think the manager versus director side, it's director. Question is it time to consider a change in that or not?
Yeah, I mean, if all things, if we didn't have to worry about waiting till June and town meeting and so forth, I would say that having this be assistant to the director or assistant health director, however, whatever wording, would be a better title, because I feel like then we could add in some of the things to the job position that weren't typically always there. I mean, in light of what just happened in our world, I think it's important to have some of those job description items in there, and they're not in there now. And so to me, that would be my choice. But I'm very sensitive to the fact that this would then have to wait until town meeting, so that would put a lot of strain on Ray and her department. So I want to hear, could we keep this filled with either consultants, or could current staffing do it until we got to town meeting? Those would be some of the questions I'd want to know.
So on top of that, like, do we have to go to town meeting to change? So we're just changing the title, because again, most job descriptions have other duties included, and I think if what I heard from Stephanie was correct, it would be, and it will align more with a typical organizational structure, and can still do environmental things as well as other duties. But do we have to go to town meeting?
So yeah, my understanding, and Ray, correct me if you think I'm wrong, is that the town precedent is that we do. The legal is not.
The town precedent is you would go in front of the personal advisory committee initially, and then you would present, even if it's just a title change, in front of town meeting, which is in June this year, June 11th.
I don't know. I mean, I could see, if we're trying to create a new position, brand new position and all this, it's a title change. Is that really town meeting topics to change a title? I don't know. Town meeting's long and we talk about really important, things, big budgetary items. Like, we're changing the title?
And
I
if the
don't
title is
understand. I just don't.
manager, doesn't
No,
that,
the title's director.
it's director?
It's director.
Okay.
Yeah, and for me, I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of, it's confusing to have two directors where one director isn't really a director. They're more like an assistant director or a manager or something like that. It's just not a typical organizational structure to do it that way. So, we've changed how this department has looked over the last, Zach, you've been on the longest, but all the time that I've been on, it has grown, it is morphed according to, the world. Things have changed, and so has this department. And I think we need to get it fixed and fix it right. But I just am stunned that we have to go to town meeting to change a title.
Sue, were you raising your hand? No.
No, she's bidding.
No, I was scratching.
Okay, I couldn't tell.
She raised the bid.
Yeah, so I don't know, Ray. Would there be a way to, if we had to, in fact, wait till town meeting, is there a way to backfill the department temporarily?
So right now we do have a consultant that is helping us with septic plans. I will say it's on a part-time basis right now. Abby has been approved as our interim health director, and she's also helping with the health agent duties. She's conducting the health agent duties and helping with the environmental. So she's also doing dual jobs.
You said interim health director.
Yeah, interim.
Oh, I apologize.
Yeah.
I apologize. A lot of director were thrown
That's
around
okay,
here.
yeah. Okay.
So I apologize. Interim director of environmental services. And so the issue is as a health agent, you have to be careful with collective bargaining. It's a union position, and bringing in a consultant. We can bring in a consultant to do more, certainly, for the director of environmental services until June. I will say, I don't know if Abby wants to speak, but it is coming up on our busiest time with environmental. It's for septic, pools, camps, as you all know. So certainly a concern. But I also want to do the right thing. You know, if you'd like to see the assistant director, we're happy to take it to town meeting and see what we can figure out.
I think we're all perplexed at this one.
Yeah, we're kind of.
I know.
We'd have
Ray,
to
you've
stand.
been so overextended
Yeah.
for the past year. And
I mean, I will
to
say,
put more
if
on you.
Yeah, I will say though, I mean, I understand the assistant director and the manager and 2 director, I get it. But I would also say though that it's pretty clear in the job descriptions who everyone reports to. And we do have a nice system where everyone, you know, knows who they report to, and there hasn't been a challenge, if that helps at all with your decision.
I guess I'm confused with why we're even talking about it right now.
Yeah. So just point of order. I thought on January 10th, and we just passed it in the meeting minutes, a motion was made by Cataldo to fill the environmental services director position as soon as possible, with the provision that we are going to change the title to assistant director, seconded by Hanley, unanimously voted. So
Okay,
I think
then
we
why are
already
we
did
talking
this.
about this?
I think the reason is that we're getting more information, right? That we have to go to town meeting to actually do this if we want to follow, I guess, protocol. I don't know. I've been to a lot of town meetings and I don't recall hearing about little things like this, but maybe no one's ever changed titles. I don't know. I don't know.
But again, is it something we have to do, or is it like advised, Ray?
The human resource department had given me a job description for the last meeting for the environmental services manager, that this position, that was the title. Since then, the same department has gotten back to me with another title, another updated version of the job description, which is called Director of Environmental Services. The classification plan that the town has, the position title is Director of Environmental Services.
And when I've spoken with the town manager, the position is that changes to title are not made except at town meeting. They did get us a thing from legal though that said that that wasn't a legal requirement. It's just the town precedent.
I don't know. I haven't been to every town meeting, but I don't remember. But I do read the whole warrant, and I don't think I've ever seen anybody ever have to do this before.
It really ties your hands. I mean, you have a position that's open. That's the appropriate time to make minor changes to, that fit in
exactly
with what is the typical structure when you're out of date, rather than you can't fill the position until you just go for the rubber stamp.
I think it's really holding the hands of the town right now. We need this position filled, and although it might be nice to go to town meeting, and maybe we should get it on the warrant at town meeting to just say we've done it. But like, we're not trying to hide anything here. This is an open meeting. We've been talking about this for a while. But I think if legal came back and said that you don't legally have to do it, then I think because we don't have the luxury of time here, I think we should just do it.
I agree. We'll start with that. I am just concerned, and it would have to be, I guess, during the interview process, that we make it perfectly clear, because if we have, so we would have to advertise it as director.
The way that the town manager would like it to be advertised would be under the title of Environmental Services Director. But if we want to change that to Assistant Health Director, we could say pending.
Can we do a slash?
Yes.
And just explain that, this is what it's, your title eventually will be this.
change At town meeting.
Title change. Yeah, I mean, I think we have to be forthcoming with that in the advertising of the position, because people look at, they go on job boards and I want to be, an agent, I want to be a director, I want to be this, they're going to look at director and then have it be, oh, well, I'm not really going to be a director, I'm going to be assistant director. You know what I mean? So I think we have to be pretty clear on how we're going to do that. But I agree with Zach. We don't have time for this. We just need to figure out the best foot forward and go.
So Zach, the last motion you had recorded was that it was to change the title to assistant director?
Correct.
And we would do that without changes to the job description, or would we make some changes with personnel to the job description?
I personally think there are probably some changes we'd like made to the job description. I don't know them off the top of my head. I'd probably want to bring in Ray and other people, talk to about what you'd like to see in that. But yeah, in light of what's going on in the world, I think that just having it be primarily septic is not exactly in the town's best interest. We need a few more skills in there, I think.
I agree.
Okay, so then
sounds good.
We will work with Ray to continue what we had amended or made the motion that was previously made, and to figure out how to make a few changes to the job description and advertise it as we have been advised to advertise it, I guess.
Okay, and would that be as the environmental services director or the assistant director?
It was to be the assistant director.
Okay.
So I can work with you on, and is there anybody else who wants to take a look? I don't know, Joanne, or
at the job description?
At the job description? You're probably fairly familiar with
trying to hire people. I need staff too. Yeah, sure.
Okay, we'll try to do this.
We have to add to the motion that she can't steal away.
I can't steal people. No, I need a public health nurse.
No. Okay. So I don't think there's anything other than that discussion to do with that. So our next agenda item is updates on the American Rescue Plan Act funding discussion. ARPA.
Okay, so the select board meeting took place last week. I stayed on for our ARPA request for the Board of Health. The select board approved our ARPA request for the public health nurse position until FY23, which we were excited to see. We gave back the $75,000 that we were approved for kits for the general public. What happened as soon as we were awarded that money, there was a 3-week delay in getting kits, and in that time period, folks were able to get kits through not only the government administration, but insurance was approved if you purchased those at the time. And we received $111,000 through COVID response money through the Department of Public Health as an addition to our Public Health Excellence Grant. We are in the middle of purchasing kits for our most vulnerable populations here, and we were able to purchase kits for employees. We have a cache of those for employees through FEMA reimbursement. The other ARPA requests, we had a request in for some miscellaneous items, for instance, for COVID clinics, such as medical supplies, stanchions, shelving, things of that. And we've been able to order those items and put those in for FEMA reimbursement. So we did not need to utilize ARPA funding for that, which has been great. COVID clinic medical supplies, I just explained. Oh, and our contact tracing. So we have not given any of that money back yet for the contact tracing line item. My hope is to just keep that open for a little bit. We did let go of our 3 contact tracers. Gail's certainly still doing that here in the department, but we're we're going to keep that line open for a little bit just to see if we should happen to need that. COVID clinics, we have discussed booster clinics with several surrounding communities in our coalitions. A lot of folks can't fill booster clinics right now. We just spoke with our partner in Chelmsford, and we would have trouble. We're having trouble encouraging people to come in for booster clinics. We can't seem to fill them. And that seems to be happening a lot in our area. So we'll continue to put out the education. We're supposed to roll out our education packet tomorrow. We've been working with the American Public Corps. Gail has worked really hard on getting together a lot of education materials, as well as our community health coordinator. So that's going to come out on our webpage just to let folks know where they can go. It's a nice Q&A where people can find information if they do have questions with COVID, where they can get a kit, if they need a booster, things of that nature. So that's the update on Opera. Unless you have any questions, I'm happy to answer anything. We do still have the nursing open for fiscal 24. I will say that the select board did not approve anyone beyond 23. So that is something that, I would certainly go back for the public health nursing line item.
Thank you. Okay, I guess we are on to our last agenda item, which is new and old business.
Yep. So I just wanted to, again, let you just know that we did receive an additional $111,269 for our regional community response for COVID. Right now, that money is allocated for contact tracing as well as COVID kits. So we are working with the Department of Public Health to see how we can best use that funding moving forward, whether smart boards or some technology software, for instance, for Zoom meetings, things of that nature, things that we could use here in the community where we do need additional funding for contact tracing at this time. We did receive a NACHO grant, which is the National Association of County and Health Officials Operational Readiness Award of $10,000. That's something Nancy Burns, our MRC coordinator, was able to apply for and just receive. So that's wonderful. The Northeast Housing Court, I wanted to make you aware, we do have several housing cases going right now in our department. This particular one is just been filed at the Northeast Housing Court regarding some state sanitary violations. So my understanding is anytime we go to court, I just want to make sure the board's aware of that. This gentleman has been given us, I would say, several now extensions to remediate the state sanitary violations. And we are working closely with the management company for this particular home setting. So we reached out to several services to see if this gentleman could use any help. So just want to make you aware of that. Healthy Lakes and Ponds Collaborative. So we are at a point where we needed to apply to the Community Preservation Foundation here in Westford for funding for to keep our lakes healthy for both monitoring, treatments, and we have a strategic plan for a 5-year strategic plan for funding. So we were just awarded $174,000 plus dollars for the next 2 years, actually, to help with those programs. So we are co-chairs with the Conservation Department. You got our new packet, the response from Attorney General regarding the open meeting law complaint, which we were found to be not guilty. You saw the Westford Health Department accreditation press release that is well underway. We actually today had our 3rd meeting this afternoon on accreditation, so we're pretty excited. We're putting together a community improvement plan, in which case we're going to pull in partners from the community, anywhere from police, fire, farmers market, residents, and get their input with focus groups before we put out our community health assessment. And the last thing we just found out today that we were approved for our grants from the FDA for additional $11,000 for our food inspectional program. So we're pretty excited about that. That will help offset tax dollars for sending our staff to trainings and conferences. I think that's it.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. I'm sorry, but there's a lot happening. So we're pretty excited.
Terrific.
That's great.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I will make the motion. I'm tired.
I was second. I'm ready for dinner.
You don't want an amendment or anything?
Thank you.
Motion made
Roll
and
call.
seconded, and thanks, Abby, for getting in there and turning your lights on constantly tonight. All right, motion made and seconded.
Aye.
Joanne Belanger,
Aye.
Zach Cataldo,
Aye.
Sue Hanley,
Aye.
Michelle Petoniak Crawford,
Hi.
Stephanie Granger, aye. That motion passes unanimously.
Hey, guys, it's a pleasure to work with all of you.
It
We
is.
all have difference of opinions and everything like that, but it's, I really appreciate the